Hello, everyone. This is Tom Fox. I'm the Compliance Evangelist, and I'd like to welcome you to an exciting new podcast series, Popcorn and Compliance at the Movies with Tom Fox and Jay Rosen. In this podcast series, Jay and I are going to take a look at movies, both classic and contemporary movies for compliance lessons, business lessons, leadership lessons, and life lessons. This podcast series is a new offering from the Compliance Podcast Network. And today it is sponsored by One Stone Creative.
If you are enjoying this show, you might enjoy hosting your own. As an expert in your field, you have skills, knowledge, and insight that can help you expand your practice, meet new people, and create amazing content to share with the world. In as little as 2 hours a week, you can dramatically change how you promote, fill, and position your business. And One Stone Creative can show you how. Learn more at onestonecreative.net.
In this introductory 5-part, 1-week podcast series, Jay and I take a look at the intersection of Star Wars and compliance. This is truly one of our favorite movie series, and I know that you will enjoy it too, as Jay and I take a look at how Star Wars, the movies, can inform your compliance program. Popcorn and Compliance is a new offering of the Compliance Podcast Network. Jay is a well-known and famous Hollywood screenwriter, so he's going to bring some of his Hollywood experience to the compliance realm, and we're going to see what lessons we can learn from each one of the movies that we're going to review and talk about. Jay, welcome.
Thanks, Tom. I think this is going to be a fun week. Definitely looking forward to it.
So, Jay, let's start with the Star Wars first Star Wars movie for me, which is now called Episode 4: A New Hope. You want to set the stage for us?
Sure. This is one of the first movies that I ever recall lining up for at the General Cinemas in the Bedford Mall in Bedford, New Hampshire. And as the famous Star Wars crawl began over the opening credits, it reminded me of these old serials that my dad used to talk about, like Flash Gordon, Buck Rogers, and Western. So suddenly I was transported away to a long time ago and a galaxy far, far away. And we see Princess Leia's ship as it's attacked by Darth Vader. Before she is caught, she sneaks stolen plans for the Death Star, which we'll learn were obtained during Rogue One, into a droid named R2-D2, who, along with his companion droid C-3PO, think Laurel and Hardy, enter an escape pod and crash land on the planet Tatooine. The droids are captured by Jawas and end up in service to our hero, Luke Skywalker, who leads a boring life with his aunt and uncle. R2 escapes to find Obi-Wan Kenobi, who tells Luke about his father, but leaves out the part about him turning evil to the dark side of the Force. After Tatooine is attacked and his family is killed by stormtroopers, Luke is looking for the droids. Obi-Wan and Luke head to a funky cantina where they hook up with the roguish Han Solo and his Wookiee companion Chewbacca. They grab a flight on the Millennium Falcon to get to the planet Alderaan and join the rebellion. En route, the Death Star proves that it's the ultimate power in the universe by destroying Alderaan on a single blast. The Falcon comes out of hyperspace and is captured by the Empire. After surviving an almost certain death in the ship's trash compactor, Obi-Wan sneaks around and shuts down the force field so the Falcon and passengers can escape. He squares off against Darth Vader in an epic lightsaber battle and sacrifices his life. The rebels still have the plans for the Death Star and plot a suicide mission that involves dropping a guided laser bomb into a tiny vent shaft. Solo declines to participate because he never sticks his head out for nobody. But just in the nick of the time, Solo shows up to save Luke's life and allow him to finish the mission to destroy the dreaded Death Star. Luke, Han, Chewie, and the droids receive a hero's welcome as they are given medals from Princess Leia and the rebels.
So that was a great wrap-up, Jay, and there's multiple compliance lessons to be learned from this episode. So I just want to throw out one and maybe get your comments on it going forward. But as you mentioned, the Death Star was the ultimate killing machine in the universe. except for perhaps the Force. But one of the plot lines that we've now seen throughout the Star Wars series is the plans for the Death Star were stolen in Rogue One, which we'll talk about, and they were analyzed by the rebellion, and the blueprints detailed the defensive posture of the Death Star, and more importantly, a weakness in the Death Star's defensive shield. At one point, the Death Star's commander, Grand Moff Tarkin, brilliantly played by Peter Cushing, is told there is a risk in the rebels' plan of attack, but Tarkin dismisses the risk as insignificant. Of course, Luke Skywalker then proceeds to exploit this risk and destroy the Death Star. Jay, I would like to use this as really a starting point to talk about risk. In the FCPA world, I think risks are fairly well known and fairly well stated. Of course, that's that you would pay a bribe or engage in corruption. But what is risk for your business? Is it where you do business? Is it how you do business? Is it what you're selling? Is it who you're selling to? Is it your partners that you're doing business with? There are a variety of ways to look at this. And most recently, I was struck by the story of the French company Lafarge Howsam, which is a cement company, and they had a cement factory in Syria during the time of the Syrian revolt, and they paid money to groups one of the groups that turns out was ISIS, basically for protection. I recognize that that's a pretty unique set of circumstances, but if you think about U.S. companies doing business in Mexico with the criminal enterprises operating in Mexico, many of those cartels are also on the denied parties lists, and it's illegal to do business with them. And what if you're paying protection money there? What if you're paying money simply to get your transports through with product and or your people? So kind of what is risk? And here we had one lone fighter was not viewed as a significant risk by the Death Star or the Empire. So it made me think of risk. It made me think that you need to analyze your risk. Of course, a risk assessment is designed to do that, but then you need to manage your risk. And at the end of the day, that's why a paper compliance program will not work, because you have to take a look at your risk and manage it throughout the process.
And, that's also why not only will not a paper program work, but a one-size-fits-all won't work either. So you need to really think about the specific industries you're in, what kind of risks may be out there. And then even one of the things that you didn't list before is not only who you're doing business with, but what kind of data you're keeping in your enterprise, what kind of cyber risk you might have there. So, that would be almost closer to the cyber risk that Grand Moff Tarkin had with having those plans lying around. So if you're going to think that it's not when you're going to get hacked, but it's not if you're going to get hacked, it's when you're going to get hacked. So you need to think about it's not if you're going to have a breakdown in your controls, but when may that be, and what represents that breakdown for you is going to be different than somebody else who's in a complete different business.
Well, Jay, this has been a fascinating look at Episode 4, A New Hope. Thanks to everyone for listening, and I hope you will join us tomorrow where we take a look at Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back. This is Tom Fox again. I hope you've enjoyed this first part of a 5-part on the intersection of Star Wars and compliance. If you have listened to this podcast on iTunes, I would greatly appreciate it if you would rate us, as it would help in our rankings. Also, if you have any questions, you can email me at tfox@tfoxlaw.com. You can email Jay at jrosen@affiliatedmonitors.com. Please join us tomorrow where we take a look at Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back, with the compliance concept of due diligence.